Hey everyone, welcome back to the All Music Matters Net podcast. I'm your host, Brian. And today, welcome two very special guests from the firing squad. We got Colby and Jeremy. How you boys doing today?
Doing great, brother. Happy to have us on.
Doing awesome. How are you doing?
Not too bad. But to fill everybody in, and I told us yesterday because I did an interview yesterday with a guy named Grizzly Ironside from the Murfreesboro area. And because Skype was usually my go-to for doing interviews, unfortunately, Microsoft is getting rid of it. So now we're moving on to Streamyard. And it actually seems to be working, but now we're trying it out with this mic because the last interview I just did with my computer mic. So this ought to be interesting. I'm hoping this works out. So I'll put this mic to good use again. All right. But how you boys been recently? What you been up to?
I'll just, trying to book and play shows. Towards the beginning of the year, we finally got this new lineup back together. We'd been on a bit of a hiatus for a while, and it's just been, trying to put ourselves back out there and market the new material and just, keep on keeping on.
Yeah, just a lot of work and, keeping busy with music. And when was that, Colby? I think I joined around September, October-ish last year. We've just been pushing forward ever since. So,
and it's been cool too, because like I said, we had a little bit of a lineup change, and it's been really interesting seeing how a lot of the music has evolved. Because especially with the new drummer, it really can change just the whole dynamics, all the material that we had written up into that point, and it's been a lot of fun, just really driving new ideas and just reimagining a lot of the stuff that we had done previously.
All right, sounds good. And I guess first off, which part of the world are you guys hailing from?
Oh, down south, we're in Louisiana.
In the bayou. So yeah. Well, you can't say swamps because I think Florida's kind of taking that whole deal now with the Everglades and all that shit. So
they can keep it. The swamps are nice, but I'll just keep my regular old woods.
All right, sounds good. So, but I guess just kick it off, boys. Over to my podcast right here, and the way it's going to work is I just want to ask you guys some questions. I want to know the guys behind the music as well as who you guys are, both as the musicians, but also as the individuals as well here too. So, you both ready?
That's it.
All right. So, Colby, here you get started because I don't know. Are you probably the original member of the group? Because I don't know how long you've been in this.
Yeah, I'd say I'm one of the founding members of this. Firing Squad started with just me and a couple of my buddies getting together. We were already friends, and we were all musicians, and it turned out starting off just having cookouts at the house and watching UFC fights and playing a few tunes with each other, and then eventually got to the point where it was like, hey, what do y'all think about trying to do a show here and there? And all three of us were guitarists by trade, but we're not Iron Maiden, so it's like, what, let's do that. I'll take the mic and I'll jump on vocals, and we'll just play around and kind of see what happens. And that's kind of just what everything blossomed off of. The more we did it, the more that we just kind of started dialing everything in, and just let it become this interesting little machine that it's turned into.
All right. But I guess since we're going by seniority in this case, I guess tell us your backstory. I guess how did you become a musician, and then we'll get to Firing Squad in a little bit here too. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start with that. For me, it really just started whenever I was younger. Music has always been on like my father's side of the family. So starting off, in high school, like probably the album that really first got me into it was, I remember whenever I bought, Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction, I was listening through that, and I was just like, dude, I want to do something like this. So, earlier on, it was, a whole lot of, like classic rock and hair metal and things of that nature. And then a bassist that I was playing with in high school, he was a lot more into like the metal side, and started like just kind of slowly introducing more and more of it, just into just my sphere of influence. And then just over time, the more heavier metal and death metal just kind of overtook everything else, and it's pretty much been what I've pursued for probably the last, I don't know, I'd say maybe 8 or 9 years.
I'd say you almost got like the red jumpsuit that Slipknot was using back in their early days with the self-titled album and everything there too. So
fair enough.
It's got that look, and even the long hair too. You put the mask on, they're gonna think you're Joey Jordison before you know it. So
maybe so. This is just hiding the rest of the suit that I have underneath it.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. All right. And I guess Jeremy, what's your story? Because it sounds like you're the newest member of the group.
So yeah, I'm the newest member of the group, but I guess I'm kind of the oldest one too. I go back a little bit further than Colby. I kind of started out younger. My parents were always, had the radio on and stuff. Kind of got into that stuff, more of the classic rock. Um, my mom used to sing along to like Heart and stuff like that in the car, and kicked all that up. And then I just kept going further and further into it. Metallica's Injustice for All and a lot of that on the metal side. And I mean, hair metal is still kind of like my guilty pleasure. Skid Row is still one of my favorite bands. But getting into high school, early 90s is about when, all the new wave of black metal kind of started to hit, like Mayhem and Dissection and things like that. And I got really heavy into a lot of that, the Norwegian metal and Swedish death metal, things like that. Now I'm kind of all over the place, but some good old ones like American, death metal to Tech Death to Death and Cynic and things like that, Morbid Angel. But I'm kind of all over the place, so kind of like Colby, we're all eclectic, but it kind of melds together, and you can hear different elements and a lot of the stuff that we all bring to the table.
That's pretty cool. And I guess, do you normally play with acoustic sets, or do you also have an electronic set that you mess around with?
I use acoustic sets. I'm kind of the gear whore of the band, even worse than Colby.
Yeah.
But I play drums and guitar and bass. But I use mainly all acoustic kit, but I do trigger my kicks. I think just about every metal drummer does trigger their kick pedals at least. So everything else is acoustic and straight.
That's why you mentioned about gear there too, because I'm seeing like all the stereos and stuff behind, or amps behind Colby there too. So it's like, that's a nice background there, mate.
So that's the thing. I was like, I could either just pull a generic image, or I got Jeremy's a bigger gear whore than me, just because he's older than me. Give me another 10 years and I'll be up to his par. But I keep the majority of my half stacks and a lot of my heads downstairs. I got about half of my collection upstairs also, and then I got a few pieces over at Jeremy's house. So I figured, I'm already setting up down here. Let me just roll a few things over, and that'll be the backdrop.
Hey, it works. So, all right. So, I guess, Colby, go ahead and jump into Firing Squad. I know you mentioned a little bit earlier, but I guess give us more of the history about Firing Squad.
Well, it's probably like any other band. You start getting together and playing some songs, and we started off with all covers pretty much. And we were kicking around names for a little bit. We kind of, wasn't really landing on anything. And then I want to say it was probably our rhythm guitarist suggested Firing Squad. And immediately I was just like, that's metal and I love it. So we ended up all settling on that. And then that's kind of what shaped the whole just aesthetic and direction that the band started going in also, because theatrics is a big part of the stage, especially for me. Like, we do full costumes and everything like that. Like bulletproof vest. I got some old, magazine carriers and stuff that I keep on me, and just things of that nature. And then as far as just the direction of how we wanted to do the music, everybody has their own little piece that they do, and we all just kind of let it all meld together. But I was like, we're already going with this aesthetic. Let's go ahead and just lean hard into, the whole war aspect. And that's shaped a lot of my lyrical influence over the stuff that we've been writing.
When I was checking out Spotify, I was like seeing a few, maybe like songs, because I know actually, funny enough, Lifehouse had a song called Firing Squad too. So I was like, I want to make sure I select the right band here too. So I guess, was Police State of Mind one of your songs?
No. So we have one EP that we've released so far. You can find it on Spotify and YouTube and the other things. The EP is called The Symphony of Steel. We have 3 originals on that track. It's Ricochet, Tracer Rounds, and Hot Lead. And then we have one cover that we did also, if anyone out there is a fan of Dying Fetus, In the Trenches, because that just seemed on brand as well.
Oh, shit. You thinking shit, son. So, yeah. Actually, you know what it was? I think there's another Firing Squad, and it's up from New York. So that's probably the one I was seeing there too. So I think you got some competition there, mate. So
Probably so. Somebody reached out to me on Bandcamp one time. It's like, hey, you need to change your name. And I was like, well, until somebody copyrights it, free game.
I guess so. So all right, tread carefully in that case. So, but I guess outside of you and Jeremy, I guess who's the other members of the group?
So
Yeah, you can
go ahead, Cole. Go ahead, Cole.
Okay. So we got our two guitars. We got Brady and Peyton. They're the other two founding members of the band. And then a little after Jeremy came on, we have our buddy Montana who jumped on bass. Brady does all the rhythm. Peyton does all of the lead work for the music. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. That's the current lineup we have at the moment.
All right, sounds good. So I guess what's the plans for this year? I guess you guys going to release new material, and I guess what shows are you going to do? Are you going to do it just in the state of Louisiana, or are you going to try to go up north to the boots of Arkansas there?
So next year we're gonna, if all things work out, we're hoping to do one little tour where we can hit a lot of the northern states. Right now, the majority of where we're playing is Louisiana, Mississippi, and we're doing our first show in Texas in September. So trying to branch out around the Gulf Coast right now, but eventually we're wanting to hit some different areas.
All right, good luck out there. But I guess Jeremy, how did you join? Was it Colby that reached out to you, or did you just find a little flyer on the internet?
I don't remember. Did you reach out to me, or did I find you? So I moved down to Louisiana in 2019. I'm originally born and raised up in Wisconsin, so quite a ways away from here. But I've just been trying to find, comfortable and things that people to play with that are kind of the same mindset and motivated, get things done. And I had this band mix account, I believe it was, and we kind of both came across each other, and I think we met the first time, and him and Peyton came over. We kind of met, played through a couple of the tunes that they had. I listened to some of it, kind of matched it, and then we decided to just basically start over. So I got a couple guitar tracks from Peyton, kind of recorded them in our little kind of demo room here at my house, and just the way we went from there.
All right. So you guys don't use a professional, or I guess we can't really say professional anymore because we got also people like doing home studios out of a shed or garage or something. So do you guys DIY it, or have you called for help for like other producers to help out?
So for the EP that we released, that was whenever we had the original lineup. We're hoping to start doing more new material soon. Hopefully in the next couple months, we'll be able to release a new single. But the first EP that we put out, everything was DI, and we ended up using somebody for it. There's another local band from the area called Shores Basharon, and we had gotten in contact with one of their members. He's got a home studio, and he does stuff like that for local artists. So he did a lot of the tracks for it, put it all together for us, and all things considered, I got to say I was pretty pleased with this first fledgling attempt at music from a bunch of kids out in the woods.
The sticks, as they would probably say. So
exactly.
So actually, have you guys played in other bands before forming Firing Squad, or is Firing Squad like, I guess more so for Colby, I guess, was Firing Squad like the only band you've been a part of?
No. So whenever I was in high school and college, I was doing a lot more music. So I had been in the scene like for a while, probably 4 or 5 years. Then I kind of took a break from it for a while, really started focusing on like my career and just things of that nature, especially whenever, I ended up dropping out of college. I was like, I need to go ahead and try to get things locked in while I'm still young enough to get my foot in the door somewhere. And probably about 3 years ago is whenever I really started kind of jumping back into the scene again. And, I'm set up in a position now where, I can actually focus on this as, like a full-time hobby without it being too much of an issue. And it's been, it's the best hobby. If you have the opportunity to go for something like this, do it.
Absolutely. And I guess, Jeremy, what's been your experience since you are the oldest of the group? So,
My experience, I've been in, a few different bands too, especially back home. Uh, you know, um, always kind of playing around. Music has always been my first love. Both my son and my daughter um, are big into music, and then my stepson and my stepdaughter are also big into music, both in the band and um, everything. My son's actually graduating from college in May with his music degree, and he's been teaching him how to play drums since he was about 2 years old. But been in a few different bands, everything. You know, as Colby kind of said too, it's you gotta keep all your stuff together and you keep going. I think I'd lose my mind if I wasn't playing music. There's been a couple times over the last few years where I was almost ready to kind of call it just because of health issues and other things going on and just too much and thankfully kind of stuck with it because between firing squad and then and Colby and I are actually starting to work on another project too that is going to be a little bit different but another outlet for us, so it's been great.
It's not hair metal though. Don't worry.
Yeah, not hair metal.
or I guess going back to the old thrash metal days or something like that. So, actually, what's this other project that you guys are working on?
I actually hooked up with another band out of New Orleans that is kind of down the thrash metal, old school thrash metal kind of road. We do a lot of cover stuff, and it's all pre 1990. So really old school thrash and everything. And the two guitarists from that are actually writing, a lot of original stuff also. Very kind of techie Black and Death. Um, so still as aggressive as Firing Squad, but a little bit more down the Black and path. A little bit more melodic and things like that also. So, but yeah, just still in the metal vein, aggressive, but a little bit different feel to it. So we're actually very much in the infancy stages of that right now.
All right, sounds good. So, I guess Colby, when did Firing Squad officially form? Was this before COVID or after COVID?
No, it was after COVID. Because I mean, time is such a blur. It's hard for me to really pinpoint it. I mean, when did COVID start? Around 2019, 2020, something like that?
It's like early 2020, yeah.
Early 2020.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, so we probably, I'd say it was probably either late 2022 or maybe sometime in 2023 whenever we got the first iteration of everything together. We played for about a year, and then the original drummer that we had left. And then I guess it was October of last year that Jeremy got on board and started this new one. So, yeah, probably 2023.
I guess while we're on that topic here too, I guess how bad was COVID for you personally, family wise, and if you want to list anything else music wise, feel free.
Well, Jeremy, I don't know about you. For me, I was probably more fortunate than a lot of people. I got to be classified as an essential worker. So in the state of Louisiana, that means that I got to, keep working full time. I didn't get furloughed or anything like that. And I wasn't really in the music scene at the time. So that didn't really change. I imagine everything probably shut down pretty hard. I know that you couldn't even go to like a show at like the House of Blues or anything unless you had tested negative for like COVID in the past like couple days or something like that, or it could show proof of vaccination. But to be honest, I mean, since everything was shut down, that actually turned into a lot more of just time for me to try to grind at work. And then I actually got the chance to, really spend more time with some of my personal friends that, you probably wouldn't see as much now. Because, I mean, got to the point where there was nothing to do. So there was a lot of times that me and one of my close buddies, we would spend the entirety of like a random Tuesday or something, just like driving through the park and playing Pokemon Go or something like that. So that was the majority of COVID for me.
Gotta catch them all, Ash, catch them. So
Pretty much.
I think so.
Yeah, COVID. for me, I much like Colby, I was an essential employee also. I'm in IT, so my job is a little bit kind of more essential to companies to keep them up and going and things. So I could get out. Um, I thrived, I think, more during COVID just because I like the solitude and the isolation. Um, my wife and I tend to keep to ourselves more than anything, anyhow. So spent a lot of time on my motorcycle, a lot of time playing, guitar, drums, video games, things like that. A lot of time at home with my dog. So for us, it was pretty much business as usual. But like Colby said, the one thing you do miss is, shows. And we didn't really go to too many shows because even on a global level, tours weren't happening. And a lot of things tried to get off the ground and then got canceled. So that was kind of disappointing. But I think it was kind of good, but I think in the same hand, it affected everybody too. It's definitely changed how we approach things now.
We should say it's like good in the sense that we kept our job and we're able to stay home. That sort of deal.
Well, that's the thing. We ended up way more fortunate than a lot of other people, and that's not saying that it wasn't a serious situation or anything, but luckily our experiences were much more mild than a lot of what other people went through.
That's for sure. So, all right. Did you guys get real sick with COVID? Were you and your families okay?
Yeah. Honestly, I think I only got tested positive for it once, and that was a real crappy week. But thankfully, I'm I guess young and robust enough that I was able to bounce back from it. Nobody else in my family really suffered too much from it.
Yeah, I think I had it. I think once or twice, maybe. They were pretty spread out though. And ironically, the second time I got it, I'm pretty sure it came from a Southport Soylent Green show back in August last year. A few days after everything started to kind of pop up, and yeah, that sucked. But only a few days. Was vaccinated, so it didn't hit me quite as bad.
Does it just suck? Like you go 2 or so many years, and unfortunately you get it because you went to either a show or you just wanted to just go out and have fun again. That's the thing, because that's what happened with me. So
yeah, you're careful and you stay away from everything, and distance and kind of watch yourself. I mean, I will say it was kind of nice, even during that time because everybody's wearing masks or just kind of distancing and being a little bit more proactive about it, so you don't have the typical, winter cold or the things kind of going around all the time that somebody brings to the office. And, deal with that. And that was nice not having those little nuances, but now we're back to that again. So
That was actually probably my favorite part, where if you were even somewhat sick at work, at least where I work, it was like, hey, you're going home.
yeah, don't even come near me. Like
Don't out the building right now.
Or you're at a restaurant and you hear somebody just cough to clear their throat, and you're like, oh shit, here comes the plague. It's like that. Get away. Hear all the chairs sliding away further.
Mm-hmm.
I was just like, everyone just turn. Just did it that way. Actually, it was
Thermex everywhere now, forever.
just bring up the Termex squad in this case. I was just bringing that. So yeah, and actually, I was going to say we have to cue the police song "Don't Stand So Close to Me." So yeah,
that's good.
Exactly.
Actually, I don't think anyone did like a parody of that song, like just to do like a little COVID thing. Like everyone's like wearing the mask, just like "Don't stand so close to me." So yeah,
were you even allowed to make fun of COVID back then? Pretty sure that was pretty taboo.
I think we have to wait like 22 years before we can actually start making fun of it. I think that's how South Park said it goes.
Yep, whatever it was.
Something like that.
Yeah, we can do it now. I remember my wife, somebody she worked with brought it because she was considered essential too, and she was still going into the office for a while, and somebody had it, brought it into the office, and she ended up with it. And we kind of isolated her at home, and every time she'd come out of the front room, go to the bathroom or touch anything, her daughter's walking around behind her with a can of Lysol, just soaking everything she touched. Like we didn't want to get sick.
Like we said, don't stand so close to me. So
6 feet.
Yeah, But all jokes aside, good to see you and your families are doing well there, boys. So good to have you along here for the ride. So, so have you guys played any shows yet in like New Orleans or any like other big cities like Baton Rouge?
So New Orleans is kind of broken up into parts. So there's an area outside of New Orleans called Metairie. Probably about 10 minutes before you really start getting into like New Orleans proper, and that's a lot of where kind of our stopping grounds are. We got a few venues out there that we play at a lot. In July, so in a couple months from now, we're going to be playing our first show. Then what I would call New Orleans proper at a place called the Hangar, which is old venue. They've been around for a long time. Honestly, the last time I think I was there, I saw Mayhem, which was really cool. And then building ended up catching fire. I'm pretty sure it's all new management now, and they've built it back up. So we're going to be doing a show with a few acts out there. Like I said, a lot of Metairie shows. We just did a show out in Lafayette not too long ago. I think that was last weekend or the weekend before. And then, like I said, we got Dallas in September, and then we're going to try to hit at least Mississippi one more time this year, and maybe go a little farther out to like maybe Alabama or Florida if the opportunity presents itself.
I guess some of the spots in Mississippi, is it that, I don't know, I'm probably going to butcher the name, but is it like Biloxi? Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, so Biloxi is one of the spots. You got Biloxi and there's kind of the whole Gulfport area. So there's a few spots out there where like the kind of the Gulf Coast metal scene will play. The Hotspot is a cool bar out in the Gulfport area. They actually have like a dragway or something that's out there. Well, they'll do a few things. They got a event called Metal and Beer Fest that they do every year. That's going to be coming up soon. So I think this is the 8th year that they've done it. So that's going to be pretty cool. And there's just there's a few other little neat spots out that way that we play at. We try to do at least once a year.
Yeah, I guess this gets so tied with COVID. So yeah, but sorry, Jeremy, go ahead.
Just gonna say there's I think a couple other spots on the track, a few others in between kind of that Gulfport and Biloxi area too that will be hitting soon enough.
I was going to ask, this gets still tied with COVID here too, but I guess what's the music scene been like in Louisiana and I guess the other states that you guys have been to? Do you think it's been on the up and up since COVID?
There was a period where, I would say that it was probably the strongest that I had seen in a long time. Because back whenever I was in college, I didn't really hang around like the New Orleans scene too much, but there was a few other cities like in Hammond that's probably about 40 minutes from Baton Rouge, and Lake Charles, which is a lot more westward, that had really cool scenes at the time. But a lot of that has just died out over the last 10 years. But right now, especially in kind of the New Orleans and the Gulf Coast area, there really seems to be like a strong, just healthy scene that's kind of started blossoming again. So it's been a really opportune time to, try to go ahead and, put your name out there and just really put on great performances and get the opportunity to play with a lot of other great local acts that are in the area.
That's cool. I guess, Jeremy, I don't know how long you've been living in Louisiana, but I guess what's your perspective with like the music scene?
See, so I've been down here about 6 years now. I think July will be about 6 years. It's kind of hit. I find it's hit or miss a lot with some things. There's a lot of bands that I think are kind of trying and give kind of like anchor points to the scene. But it's hard. It's a little bit harder to kind of get that camaraderie. Especially Baton Rouge is quite different from the New Orleans area, which they're both way different than Lafayette area. So you get kind of your different kind of groups and more dominant genres kind of in each one. But I mean I'm starting to get more and more meeting more and more people out there. I think more from the musician side. I'm not big in social media, so I'm not kind of following Facebook or things like that anymore. I kind of burned out on that years ago and kind of stay away from it. So I'm still kind of old school in that aspect where we get out and meet people, and most of the people I know from the scene are people that I've met trying to either come into what project they have going on, or we're trying to start something. So that being said, I think some of it's kind of picking up more. Um, we've just over the last couple of months, we've really started playing. We've had some really good things happen, and decent turnouts at the shows and things. So the scene is alive. I think it's kind of which part are you going to kind of hit at?
It almost seems like there's a little bit of a vacuum right now because you've always had like those few like local bands from this area that have always kind of dominated everything. So you have classics like Acid Bath, you have Goat Whore, Crowbar, bands like that. But it's been long enough now where it seems like there's a desire for like something fresh and something new. So there's a little bit of competition. It seems like that there's been to try to fill that spot. I know Brad out of New Orleans is one example of that. They're a local band that have really, popped off a lot this past year or two, and have been really successful in, just their music and the touring that they've been doing. So it's, in my opinion, an opportune time for if anybody has something unique that they're able to market well and people are able to enjoy. If you go ahead and put in the work, there's a good shot that you can at least build yourself up a nice little cult following in the area.
It's the right kind of cult. We don't want the bad kind of cults. So yeah.
Exactly. The cult of metal.
Cult of metal. There we go.
Plenty of the bad cults around here too. But no, like Colby said too. I think there's definitely some good bands that are out there too. One that I'm kind of excited. I think when it's at the end of May, Colby with Skulldozer.
Oh yeah.
From Mississippi area. I'm really excited about that one. We just played. I think it was back in February. We played a show down in Metairie, right outside New Orleans too, and there was I think 3 other bands on there, which had quite a different range of genres and everything, but very talented people too. So I'm excited at what the future is going to bring, and getting a wider range of meeting these other bands and just getting out there ourselves.
All right, sounds good. Actually, I was going to say, what's everyone think of Pantera? Because you just had Phil at Sabo, who was like the only Louisiana guy who ends up joining a bunch of Texas guys. And eventually, at some point, he forms Down, which I guess was all Louisiana boys.
I think so.
So I guess what's everyone's opinion? Actually, I think he talked about his father's restaurant at one point on Samos. I guess it closed down at some point. So is there still the bill still there?
Well, that's another thing about like it's hard to have a successful restaurant in New Orleans because the bar is so high down there with such just amazing food that it's difficult to compete. But if you're just referencing Pantera in general, if you're talking about the original band, I mean, obviously fan favorite. The first 2 albums are the 2 that I find myself listening to the most, and even the tribute that they're doing now. Even though I haven't had the chance to go see them yet, I think it's a wonderful thing. My personal experience, and I talk about this with some guys at work sometimes, is you're not going to whatever this new thing is. It's not Pantera. It's a tribute to Pantera. You're not going there because you want to see them play exactly like the records. You're going there because you just want to see Phil and Gus and Zach Wilde and everything play those old songs, and for you and your buddies to sing along to these songs that you've been enjoying for the past 20, 30 years.
Yeah, that's kind of it too. I mean, I remember when all that stuff first came out, and Cowboys from Hell came out, and Vulgar Display of Power. I mean, back before CDs were even a thing, and we wore that cassette out in the car so many times. I'm with Colby. I haven't gone to see the whole tour lately, or the tribute tour, because I remember back from the Vulgar Display of Power tour. And I don't want to change that. That's how I choose to remember it. But seeing them, I mean, get out there and at least do the stuff. And are they still on the Metallica shows too? I mean, introducing a lot of people to that, you know, that legacy and everything else.
I think they might have stopped with the Metallica tours, but I know they were on the bill originally. So I don't know what to do now. They're probably just chilling. But I think Phil got back together with Down. So be interesting to see they come out with some new material. I just know Nola. That was a killer album.
I remember, like I said, I remember when that very first came out when they did that, and it was just like, wow, this is awesome. Because I mean, COC and Crowbar, I mean, you know, you can't go wrong with them on their own, and then throw Phil into the mix, and then they did. I don't know if you saw that, but during COVID, they did the anniversary of NOLA where they played it all in entirety, and and everything. And I think that's out there on YouTube too, so you can still kind of see that. But that was awesome. You know, live stream them playing the whole NOLA album from right down in New Orleans. I think they played a couple shows like down at Fillmore and things too.
Gotta do something. So, all right. Congratulations to the boys, nonetheless. We'll get to it. So, hey. But also good to see the music scene is doing well there too. But the way you're kind of describing it, it's almost like a power vacuum. So it's like, should we call this a music Game of Thrones in this case, or something like that?
I don't know if it's going to be cutthroat like that, but it's definitely an opportunity where a lot of I think, you know, upcoming bands are really trying to make themselves viable as, like, you know, one of the big names in the scene right now.
Maybe not so much cutthroat with like actual violence, but maybe more so social media, and maybe we could say like the bots trying to like do something there too. I don't know.
I wouldn't even say that. I mean, because a lot of us are really friendly with each other, and we all do shows with each other. And at the end of the day, the material you put out and the performance you put on is what's going to determine if you know, you're going to be one of the top names or not, in my opinion.
Actually, the reason I brought it up, there was a band I know. I'll keep them anonymous because they're doing something else right now, but they were doing their own little project for a while, and I guess another band started spreading rumors about them. And unfortunately, people picked up on it. So I think because of the drama and everything else that kind of came along with it, they just called it quits. So it's kind of what I'm saying there too. And I don't know if it's a challenge you guys face, but it seems like you guys seem to have the friendly side to it. But jumping into that question, I guess, what challenges do you guys feel like you face these days as a band and as musicians in general?
I think to touch on that too, like, you know, healthy competition is always good, right? Whether, you know, be it in your job, you know, between friends, between, you know, bands, kind of things like that. I think the competitive side is always nice and kind of drives it. But, you know, like you said, you know, some of the upcoming bands, you know, like some of the other bands that we like and you know, either have played with or hope to be playing with soon. You know, it's good to drive that. I don't like pulling the drama into it. I don't necessarily worry too much about what other people think or what they do. You know, we kind of do us, and my approach has always been, you know, from the band wise, like, this is what makes us happy. This is what we do first. You know, if we aren't enjoying it and having fun, there's no point in going out there and doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
It's Colby. I wasn't sure if you wanted to try to build off of that. I'm not sure.
I mean, he pretty much covered it. I mean, and that's another thing. Nothing's going to kill a band, especially in the local scene, quicker than just being a jackass, you know? So, I mean, just leave all that stuff at the door. And even if something does come up, I mean, there have been times, you know, where, you know, there might be individuals in the scene that have done things that I think are unsavory that, you know, makes me want to distance myself from those individuals, but you don't go public about it. You just keep all that stuff to yourself. Don't bring that drama out to the scene. Like I said, it's a healthy spot right now. A lot of people are going out, having fun, going to these shows. There's no reason to make it toxic. But then back to your other question, I mean, honestly, probably the only challenge that I say we face right now is just being busy in general. Because, I mean, you know how it is. I'm not like Jeremy where I don't have, you know, a family, but like still just working full time and then still trying to make time for, you know, the music and the networking and all that stuff. It can be a bit of a drain from time to time. And then, other than that, right now it's probably just bookings in general, because there is a decent amount of competition, and then you have the one aspect of trying to actually schedule things with venues and then getting good lineups and then driving the turnout, and then at the same time there's a lot of times where you'll finally get that done and then you realize that you're in competition with another show that's happening the same day. So those are the two things that are probably the biggest challenge, at least for me at the moment.
I wasn't too sure if it was just sports related, but I wasn't sure there was a bad rivalry between Louisiana and Texas. So is that sort of true, or is it just strictly sports?
I don't think so. We haven't really been out towards Texas yet. Like I said, this one that we're doing in Dallas in September is going to be our first, opportunity to go play out there. And honestly, I'm looking forward to just checking out the scene and, meeting new people and just exposing more people to, what it is that we're trying to throw down.
I guess watch out for Leatherface then when you're traveling through there. So, all right. But good luck this year, mate. So,
Yep.
All right. So I guess let's jump into the gear real quick, and then this could probably segue into AI. Some of the questions I sent over to you there too, and I think I said the questions to you twice. So sorry about that. I kind of lost track where I was, but all right. But let's go ahead and jump to the gear. So what you got, Cole?
Too much shit, to be honest. I'll talk about some of my favorites. So probably the guitar that's my go-to right now is I've really become a big fan of the Solar guitars. So right now I've got one of the earlier 6-string models that has been just my go-to axe for probably the past year and a half. For cabs, my favorites right now is I have some old school Vaders that are my pride and joy. Absolutely love those things. I also got one of the 5150 Mark III cabs with the Celestian greenbacks that just sound really good no matter what I put through them. My favorite heads right now is my Engel Powerball, which I want to upgrade to some of the other Engel stuff before too long. But that's a really good, in my opinion, just all-around amp for whether I'm playing a blues or I'm trying to do something a little more heavy. And then surprisingly, the little 5150 Iconics that they put out, the little 80-watt heads that they did, that was probably maybe about 2-3 years ago now. Those things, whenever you match them up with a great cab, it's fantastic. So that's really good. And then I really like my Laney Ironheart. That's a really good amp. That's actually what our rhythm guitarist ends up playing the majority of the time.
I did have to ask about the 5150s. Was it because of the Van Halen album 5150, or is that, I guess, just brand name been around a good while?
Yeah, it's just so that's just whenever they paired up with PV originally, it was James Brown was the designer of the amp, and I'm pretty sure that was with Van Halen, and then 5150 is just the branding that they did for that whole circuit. Right now, I think Fender owns the name, which is why like PV goes under the 6505 now, because it's still the same circuit and everything, but it's the different numbers. But
yeah,
I don't even remember what year that was.
Yeah, the 6505 amp is basically using different tubes than the original 5150 did with PV, and then Fender does own like the EVH line and everything, and he kind of stuck to the 5150 for the amp branding.
I will argue it's definitely one of my favorite album covers of all time for the Van Halen 5150. So
I have a lot of stuff. I mean, like Colby said, guitar wise, all that shit too. I have some custom Mesa cabs, a full Mesa rig, and then mostly Marshall cabs with some Engel stuff. And I do have one of the little 5150 lunchbox amps too, which sounds amazing. But mostly drum stuff. My kit set up here at home is one of my DW kits. I use that primarily, keep here, recording and everything. I don't want to get it jacked up by taking it out anywhere. Usually Sabian cymbals. I have a few Zildjian stuff, and these Axis or trick pedals with the old school DM5 for triggering. And then my kits that I use usually playing out with Firing Squad are I've got a older Pearl that I take out, and that's all pretty much the same sizes, 2 22-inch kicks, and 8, 10, 12 rack toms, 14 and 16 floor, all on the rack. So it's pretty simple for mobility when we get out too. But primarily that's what we use, and then in ear things. Most of that stuff, even when we're rehearsing here, we all use in ears. So run it all that way.
Definitely makes things a lot easier.
Yeah, does sound like would make it easier. So, I guess Jeremy is sort of tech geek, but it seems like he backs away for like the social media. But I guess, what do you guys make of like the social media and AI these days? I don't know if you guys use any of it for like music wise or art wise.
I've seen some of it, and just because of my career being on the IT side and into the security end of things, I definitely see the pros and cons of it, but to me it's kind of a bane. I mean, to quote some of the things from Rush's Spirit of Radio, I mean, you're kind of left to your own devices and the things that people are using now. It's so much easier instead of just putting that feeling into it for me. I mean, I feel it opens up more avenues for you to create things and be creative, but you still have that path of where is it actually you doing it? I mean, where do you draw the line on creativity?
Glittery prizes and endless compromises. Shout out the illusion of integrity.
Exactly.
Jeez. It's almost like prophetic in a way, if you wanted to call it that. So, I guess cool that Jeremy got hit on the head, or do you want to add anything else to it?
Not really. I think it's a net positive overall. I think at the end of the day, AI is going to just become another tool, the same way that the internet has become a tool. And a lot of the same pros and cons. You can say that the internet has probably made people a lot, dumber and lazier in some aspects, but at the same time, there's just so many other positive things that have come from it that I'm hoping that music is going to be the same way, at least after a period of time. So I'm hopeful, just in general.
Actually, I wasn't sure if it was just going to be the Skynet conspiracy, as I like to call it now, because it seems to be where some people are leading, because they don't know if it's starting to integrate into the military now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like if you give it nukes, it's like, are we kind of dooming ourselves? Are we going to be having to rely on Arnold Schwarzenegger to come back and do that whole shtick again? So,
I mean, you're making the assumption we're not doomed already.
I mean, I'm trying to be optimistic, but unfortunately, I think humanity continually makes me a pessimist. So, oh well, what can you do? So,
it's like idiocracy has become a prophecy too.
I guess so.
There is no more parody anymore. It's just everything is prophetic.
Actually, the satire became reality, that we wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
So, just whatever next. All right. I say God help us in that case. So, tread carefully, good soldiers. So, yeah. But Colby, are you the main songwriter? Or do you guys tend to kind of look over lyrics before you like commit to a song?
No. So most of the time, I leave all the music to the rest of them. So every now and then, like I might show them a riff or something where I'm like, hey, I think this is cool, and they might take it and work it into something that they're doing. But a lot of times they'll write the music, put everything together, and then they'll either give me like a song title or a theme, and then I'll just base the entire thing around that, or I'll just listen to it and then base it off of something that I've been, hyper fixating on for a while. Like 2 of the songs that we're doing is basically just completely based on, like it's focused around like Mehmed II, in the Turkish Ottoman Empire in like the 1450s and like stuff like that. So a lot of times they'll just write something and I'll be like, oh, that's cool. And then, I'll just go off on my little tangent. But the cool thing is a lot of us, we kind of just let each other keep to our own lanes, which I really like, because everybody gets to bring their little piece and put it in, just the words escaping me, but you put all of your pieces into this pie, and then at the end of the day, we'd let that be what it is. It's makes the writing process real easy for everybody, Because one thing I like about this group that I haven't had in the past with other bands is there's not like this one clear idea of what somebody wants the project to be, and everything has to follow in line with it. It's just, hey, we're all bringing all of our different backgrounds and then musical interests and aspects into it, and we let it evolve into whatever the final product ends up being.
Yes. What do the lyrics normally like to delve into, Colby? Because, well, I guess what was going on in the Ottoman Empire in the 1450s?
Oh, I mean, just aspects of war in general. So the cool thing about Mehmed II is he was referred to as Mehmed the Conqueror. So, there's the Turkish Ottoman Empire was really just trying to expand everything at that time. So pretty much wiped out the rest of the Byzantine Empire, which was like kind of the last little bits of like the Grecian Empire. They were fighting with Hungary a lot. And then you also had like Wallachia, which was, kind of wedged in between them as like a buffer zone, which was also when, like Vlad the Impaler was alive. So there's, just a lot of history that's really cool just in that whole area and like that, 50 to 70 year expanse. So I got two songs that kind of focuses on that, mainly from the Turkish side. And then from there, a lot of the other stuff kind of goes into more like the World War I, World War II kind of era. And then one of the songs is more of just kind of like a conceptual idea of what war might be like if it ever came to like the actual shores of America, God forbid. And, we got one or two more songs that we might do in that vein. We're working on some other stuff, but at the same time, I'm probably going to keep all of that to this first album that we're doing. And then we might branch out into something, different musically or lyrically for, the next set of music and songs that we start doing. Because I like the idea of kind of keeping a concept album for a lot of this stuff. And I don't want any one thing to get played out too much. So it kind of just depends on, what I find interesting at the time.
That's just almost like you're taking a God the Throne sort of direction there with like World War One. Because I think that's what they delve into like afterwards. I don't know what
there's a lot of cool history if you just sit around and read it. I mean, there's a lot of really cool stories, and you can borrow from a lot of that, and then you can just let your imagination run wild with some of the just concepts and themes that are just entwined in it all.
You kind of mold it into like your own little fantasy story in a way.
A little bit,
sort of.
I'm good at stuff like that.
Yeah.
Dungeons and Dragons is like my favorite pastime, so writing a story is something that I really enjoy.
Do you get into like any other video games, like from the PlayStation or Xbox?
Ooh, I'm a much bigger like old school Nintendo RPG guy. So like I would much rather play like the old Final Fantasies and like Chrono Trigger and even stuff like old school like Wizardry or like Swords and Sorcerers and stuff like that. Baldur's Gate is cool too. The original ones are a lot of fun. I'm actually doing my first playthrough through Baldur's Gate 3, which is really cool. But that's kind of my vein of video game if I'm going to choose one.
Yeah, Jeremy, are you a gamer too?
Yeah, we've got grew up with all that stuff too, the old school Nintendo and PlayStation series like the Ratchet and Clank stuff. I like playing those. God of War on that one. Some of the Xbox stuff. I was a big World of Warcraft guy for a long time before like Warcraft 3 and everything, and then when World of Warcraft launched back in 2003 or 2004, 2005. So I just recently kind of quit putting that much time into it because so much other stuff going on, and to the point too where it's like I just spent like 50 hours this week playing video games when I could have been putting it into something more constructive. So just more trying to stay away without getting sucked into it so I can focus on other things. But no, video games are a big one. We still have every console pretty much set up in the living room yet. Like Colby said, once in a while you get through and just play through it. Just the nostalgia kicks in and everything too. And then I think all the kids are into video games too. So I watch them play enough and just kind of go from there.
Yeah, actually, you know what? I got all the God of War games, and I have just not had the time to get through it, to be honest. So I feel bad. So I gotta get through it, and then it goes to Tsushima. That's what I gotta play next. So let's see what happens. So just one more question, and then we'll jump to the fun ones afterwards. I forgot to ask this earlier, but I think throughout the interview you've mentioned about people who have, or perhaps more so bands that have influenced Firing Squad. But I guess what other bands and individuals kind of shape like your play styles and, Colby, in your case, vocal style?
Well, for this project in particularly, I draw a lot of my stuff from just like kind of probably the more like 80s and 90s metal. Behemoth is a huge influence of mine. I really like the old Morbid Angel and Cannibal Corpse stuff. And then even going into things like Carcass and, especially like the Heartwork album and things of that nature. And then as far as just music in general, a lot of my influences, if I'm branching out into other stuff, it's going to be a lot of the hair metal and kind of speed metal from back in, like the 80s. And then big fan of 70s music. Like, as much as I enjoy death metal, greatest band of all time is still the Bee Gees.
Do you do more of like a hard growl sort of style? Because when you were talking about 80s, I don't know if it was like the harsh sort of scream voice. I don't know if we should say like screaming. It just sounded like it was almost like yelling in a way for like the old thrash in those late 80s metal bands. Is that sort of your vocal style?
I do a lot more like kind of the guttural low thing. As we've been writing more songs, I've been kind of experimenting a little bit more just to add more, textures and flavor to it. But the old, Cannibal Corpse, Morbid Angel style vocals is kind of what I focus most on.
Or you gonna do like the evil spells? Got you in my evil spell. Now it's time to burn in hell. So
or like Glenn Ben's Deicide stuff, like the low vocals that he does. Like that was another big influence, like early on, and me discovering metal.
Actually, it was more like I want to say like maybe for the first two albums, because it seemed like the whole guttural growl for Glenn Benn came like, should we say Scars of the Crucifix?
Well, that was the album I was introduced to, so that's what I think of whenever I think of Deicide, and that was one of the first metal albums I had ever heard too, and it was just such a assault, like so much different than anything I'd ever been exposed to. It was, extremely abrasive at first, but I always compared it to coffee. Like the first time that I had coffee, I'd have it, lots of milk and sugar. But the more that I indulged in it, the more that I just needed it blacker and blacker. And that's kind of how metal was for me, for lack of a better analogy.
There goes extreme black coffee.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Black Rifle Coffee Company.
Black Rifle Coffee Company. All right. Fair enough. I guess, Jeremy, which drummers kind of influenced your play style?
Of course, Neil Peart from Rush, Nicholas Barker with Cradle of Filth, Lockup and other ones. Dimmu was another one where he was kind of a part of that. Of course, Hellhammer, Mayhem, all the old school things. Those are big ones. Danny Carey was a kind of a big influence too from Tool. Not quite as much. I still listen to them every once in a while, but I think I've kind of gone more down, like Colby said, the Behemoth Inferno is just a beast. And I forget the guy's name off the top of my head. Swallow the Sun is another good one. They're kind of a big influence for me too. Kind of more into that Finnish doom. Same with like the old school, like My Dying Bride, all that kind of stuff. I've listened to for such a long time. I don't agree with Bee Gees being the best band ever, but the Cure is another big one for me also. So I can't say too much. To me, I think Robert Smith is just one of those songwriters up there. But there's so many different influences I think that are just big.
That's for sure. So I think the funny thing with Behemoth is they kind of slowed down a little bit. They still have a little bit of speed every now and again, but it wasn't like what you heard with like Demigod or the Apostasy. Mm-hmm. So those ones.
But I will say, I still think that the Satanist was their magnus opus. Like that was I think to this day, my favorite album that they put out.
I will admit, Blow Your Horns, Blow Your Trumpets, Gabriel. I would say that one was. It's definitely catchy for being slower. So yeah, so I can see why.
I agree. It's one of their better ones. I'd have to say though that I still think Evangeline is probably the top.
It is good.
I mean, that one's just from an all-out brutal aggression and seeing those guys live. Just yeah, one of my favorite bands to see live.
Their God will put on a show for you. So yeah.
Oh yeah.
I will admit, I'm a drummer too, Jeremy. So I actually did Lucifer from that Evangelion album. I was trying to make sure I pronounce it right. So that was for Halloween.
Nice.
So yeah.
Right. I did see. I don't know if you ever saw it, but if you look out there, there's a couple of YouTube videos of it. They were doing a sound check at one of their shows, and the drummer from Fall Out Boy was actually up there playing with them. He's big into the death metal and everything too, and it was kind of fun watching that. Not a Fall Out Boy fan, but it's still pretty cool to see that crossover from other bands. Just see where they all get their influence from.
I guess so. There ain't no bounds. So all right, fair enough. Right. So boys, we produced some questions here pretty good. So yeah, let's jump into some fun ones. Ready?
Go ahead.
All right. So Colby, I'm actually curious if there's a particular dish I haven't heard about from Louisiana, but what would you say is currently your favorite food?
I mean, it's the same as always. It's going to be sausage, gravy, and biscuits. You can't go, dude, you can't go wrong with sausage, gravy, and biscuits. Just straight concrete, just for your belly. It's so good. I'll take that any day of the week, all day, every day, over any other food.
I would say no love for the jambalaya, or is that if you're feeling it?
I mean, it's fine. Jambalaya and gumbo and all that stuff is good, but I'll still never like it more than I like sausage, gravy, and biscuits.
Are you the same way, Jeremy, or do you got a particular one?
Actually, I can't stomach sausage, gravy, and biscuits. It's a little bit too bland for me. I actually, since being down here, I never touched crawfish before I moved down to Louisiana. And right now we're in that time of year where it's just everything's there. Pretty much between now and May is about when it ends. But even my stepdaughter, she won't come out of her room. You ask her if she wants to go get crawfish, and she'll be waiting out in the car before I even turn around. So that's a big one.
Actually, is this where we formed the Bubba Gump Company? So
and I've always liked like sushi and all that stuff too, but man, you come down here where we have a few offices in like Homa and Galliano area closer to the Gulf, and they have a lot of little shops where they're just fresh off the boat shrimp, and you can pick them up for $2-3 a pound sometimes, and there's something about that fresh seafood that just it amplifies it. So it's nice.
It's funny you mentioned about the crawfish because Phil and Samo, I know we're kind of circling back with him, but he was on Loudwire and he was kind of talking about his past stories. I guess he worked on the boats to catch the crawfish and all that stuff. He mentioned this one called a scorpion fish, which I guess if it sprays, it could potentially blind you because I guess it's got a little poison in it or something. And unfortunately, he said it didn't happen to him, but unfortunately, somebody else tried to stab one and it sprayed its little venom and got on the guy's face. So, needless to say, it was a little disfigurement, that sort of stuff for a little while. So, some crazy shit. So,
yeah, it's a risk in anything that you do.
There's always a risk, but the reward is totally worth it in the end. So, yeah, that's how it goes. All right, but all great choices there. So, Colby, I guess, not sure how much of a TV nerds you guys are, but what would you say is your favorite movie? And what's your favorite TV series, if you want to share one?
I don't know about TV series. I don't really watch a lot of television, but my favorite movie of all time is still probably Eraserhead. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It was like David Lynch's, I think, very first movie, and it is a weird horror movie, all black and white. It's not technically a silent film. There's a little bit of spoken dialogue towards the end of it, but it is just so weird, and I adore it.
was trying to think. I think it was Siren Head, I think was the name. I think it's like a recent like indie horror game that recently came out there too. For some reason, that's what I was thinking of, but I had never seen Eraserhead, so I couldn't tell you anything about it really. So that's interesting. But so TV series, but I guess Jeremy, I guess what you got?
I still love a lot of the horror stuff. I mean, some of the jacked up psychological things. Rob Zombie's Halloween is kind of right up there with the most fucked up movie. That one just really kind of took it to a whole new, psychological level. But Bram Stoker's Dracula is still my top movie.
That's a good one.
Guys don't really get into any TV series. What'd you see? I know we mentioned Game of Thrones earlier. This is a joke, but no.
I do. I mean, we watched some stuff. I mean, another, I guess, side impact of COVID brought on the trash TV. So, it's kind of like you can't look away, watch the train wrecks, like Tiger King and all that other shit that they got out there now. So, I mean, it's always kind of fun to watch some of that stuff just to see how bad other people's lives are. But there's some good stuff out there. I mean, there's I think it's called Dark Winds, kind of a relatively new one. I think it's ongoing right now too, like the 3rd season. I've been kind of getting into that one a little bit lately. We did watch the Game of Thrones stuff, like you said, and I think my wife is watching the Dexter prequel right now. Some of that, some of them in the past. Sometimes it's harder to sit down. So it's like you wait a bit, and it's like we'll spend a whole afternoon binging for a bit, watching TV and catching up, and then you just don't sit down and watch it for a while.
Honestly, you made me remember another one that I did enjoy, even though it's a bit older, is the first few seasons of that Hannibal TV show that they came out with Matt Mikkelsen was really good, at least for the first couple seasons of it. That's the last one in a while that I've probably seen that like really stood out to me.
Got a bunch of horror fans, so I guess is there some sort of horror con that they bring down to somewhere in Louisiana? I don't know if they do in New Orleans or Baton Rouge or something.
Wouldn't surprise me if they do. I mean, we got a few haunted houses that are pretty big out here. I want to say that Phil Insomnia was co-owner of one, if I remember correctly. But I mean, there's always some kind of event happening down in New Orleans, so it wouldn't surprise me at all.
It's party. I mean, that's where Mardi Gras happens. So yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say earlier too when we were talking about shows and everything. It's hard to be the only thing that's happening. Like Colby said about competing with other things going on. I mean, you're in that area where there's just always so much going on.
Was I flashing the Hooters to get a good amount of beads?
No, you say Mardi Gras and I stay away from New Orleans. I want nothing to do with that crowd.
Yep. I went to the St. Patrick's Day parade once, and it was a lot of fun. I don't know if I would ever go for like actual Mardi Gras. Just too much chaos.
I guess in this case for the St. Patty's Day, you just get to sell a bunch of Irish Hooters in that case. So
exactly. You just sit around, have a few hurricanes, and have a good old time.
We're having fun. And then I also saw some guy. I was actually in New Orleans. It was actually a couple years back now that I think about it, but it was pre-COVID. And we were on Bourbon Street. I think I was just seeing this one guy in a wheelchair just kind of going around. I don't know if he was high on something, but he's an interesting character, to say the least. So
you'll come across no shortage of those.
I guess so.
Interesting individuals. That's why if you're going to go, try to go while it's still daylight. You don't really want to be in New Orleans after dark.
They come out at night.
So,
oh yeah.
It's probably more rare to not have an interaction with somebody like that.
It wasn't really a direct interaction. I think we were sitting at a bar. We just see the guy across the street right there in a wheelchair just acting funny and that sort of stuff. Couldn't really see what he was talking about, let alone hear what he was talking about. So just funny. Just funny to bring it up. But I did have a couple of hurricanes, needless to say. Maybe a happy drunk afterwards. So
there's a lot of nice, just kind of cultural old, drinking spots down in New Orleans. There's probably really only 2 places that I go to, maybe 3. I mean, if you're ever passing by the Roosevelt Hotel, like they have a really nice bar that's in there. If you just want to sit down somewhere that's kind of classy and have a few drinks and hang out, the old Absinthe House is cool. And then I don't remember the name of it, but they have that old blacksmith shop. I want to say it's probably, I think it's one of the oldest bars in the country, but the name's escaping me. But there's just a few cool, really interesting, kind of historical spots down there that you can just go and have a few drinks and just kind of absorb some of the culture.
Well, they straight up, so it'll be New Orleans after all. So,
yeah.
All right, all good choices right there. So, I guess speaking of the drinks and everything here too, I guess what would you say is your favorite alcoholic drinks, and what's your favorite non-alcoholic drinks, Colby?
Oh, well, for alcoholic, I guess it depends. If I'm just sitting around the house, I'm going to have a few drinks. I'm going to be pretty frugal, and I'm more than content with just Taka and orange juice. If you're asking what my favorite alcoholic beverage is probably Louis the 13th cognac, and then for non-alcoholic, so the brand Twinings has a really nice blend of tea called Lady Grey, and so that's probably what I drink the most of.
Jeremy?
For me, it's going to be, alcoholic. I think the older I've got, the more I'll sit down with a good beer now. Even like some of the liney stuff from back home, which can't find it everywhere down here, but a lot of places you can. And then I drink a lot of water too. Not getting any younger, so really having to take care of myself a lot better than I used to. So I got to watch it, do a lot of water and trying to cut out some of the other stuff.
Ain't as good as I used to be, as they would say. So,
mm-hmm.
That's the truth, man.
Sadly. All right, but all great choices there. And for last fun questions, here's how I'll word it. So if you have a favorite song of all time, feel free to share. Otherwise, name your top 5 bands of all time.
Favorite song of all time? It's going to be a hard toss-up between "O Father, O Satan, O Son" by Behemoth and "Fanny Be Tender" by the Bee Gees.
That's kind of an odd mix up there.
They're just neck and neck. Dude, disco death metal is my jam, man.
Do we form a disco death metal band next or something? Oh, man. That'd be something. So, disco's not dead. Somehow it's still preserved for some reason. So, all right. And Jeremy?
I'd say top 5 bands. I'd probably, in no particular order, I'd say Skid Row is one of them, the old one with Sebastian Bach. Minimal amount of catalog, but still a big one for me. Swallow the Sun is a big one. Typo Negative is always going to be one of my favorite bands. Sad that's done. And then, of course, Rush. And then Dissection is another one of my favorite bands. Still listen to them quite a bit. Probably favorite song-wise. Shit, there's just so many to pick from. I don't know if I could actually name a favorite song.
It's close enough. That's why I say there's almost like you choose one or the other in this case. So
yeah.
Right. So it's all good, but all great choices there nonetheless.
It's like asking you which one's your favorite kid.
Be like, you are, or something like that. So, yeah.
Depends what day it is.
Yeah, that's what you got to tell them. Like, depends what day it is and which one has annoyed me the most. So yeah. So, all right, fair enough. But boys, we basically all the questions here. We're down to one more question on my podcast right here. But before we jump into it, would you guys like to ask me anything real quick?
No, I got to say, just thanks for having us on. It's been a fun time talking. Before we get into this last question, to everybody that's listening, we are Firing Squad. Check out our EP, The Symphony of Steel. We have it on Spotify. We have it on YouTube. check us out on all the social medias. I say all the social medias, primarily Facebook. That's the main one that I'm actually on. And we hope you enjoy what you hear.
Do we got a little shout out to the mascot right there?
Oh, yeah, my little puppy right here. This is Chaos. Oh, hey, baby. Hey, baby.
Hey, cute little bugger.
Oh, yep. Kisses.
Probably mad. It's usually Saturday. Every other Saturday is our D&D day, and nobody's over there to give her attention.
Well, she was whimpering earlier there too, so I was thinking like, Jeremy, what are you doing? So
Yeah,
I thought it was you, but then I figured it had to be Colby or something. So
I figure I heard her before. She's probably chewing on her little toy that squeaks. But yeah, my dogs are all laying around out in the living room. So.
All right, but Jeremy, you all good too?
Yeah, I'm good. I'd echo Colby. Thank you. Appreciate the time and coming on and chatting with you and everything. And if you're ever down in this area too, coming again, let us know. Hopefully it'll be a show or something and meet up or anything too. So very appreciated.
Not to say, I think it might be a while before we get down to New Orleans again. So, all right. There's no other questions. Here's how the last one goes, and Colby, you can start. So, given a whole lot of the negativity that's been kind of going on in the world, like at first, it seemed like the turn of the millennium, it got hit with 9/11 first, the two wars that happened in Afghanistan, Iraq, the financial crisis, and then COVID that kind of came around here too. That's mainly just what happened in the States. And then you have all the other chaos and wars that kind of been going on in around the world there too. But for all the negativity that's been going on in the world, it seems like people have been struggling to find some sort of hope and meaning. So what's sort of message of hope would you give to musicians and people so they can try to move forward with their lives?
Don't spend so much time behind a computer screen. Go out, meet people, go to shows, introduce yourself, meet up with people, and just start having, like actual face-to-face interactions again. That's one of the main reasons, even if, you're somebody that's kind of a bit of a secluse. I mean, I'm like that a lot of the times. I know Jeremy can be like that sometimes too, but just taking time to, get together with friends, even if it's not in a band setting. Like I said, we get together twice a month and play Dungeons and Dragons. Just find things that you enjoy, find people that make you happy, and focus on the things that are actually immediately around you and less of what's going on, 5,000 miles away. Because the things that are happening directly around you are the things that are actually important. And generally, in my experience, you'll find that there's way less chaos in your immediate sphere than what you'll see behind a computer screen.
Yeah, I have to agree with that and take it a step further by, focus on you. I mean, do what makes you happy. I think part of the problem with so much going on is that so many people just can't just ignore what other people are doing. It has no bearing on your life. Just focus on you. I mean, my goal every day is trying to be a better Jeremy than I was yesterday. And I think if a lot of people do that and have that outlook, I think the world overall would be a better place. But you got to take solace in the fact that you're going to make what you so get out there, have fun, live for you. Do what you think. If that's being a part of your community or the scene or whatever, become active in it. The best way to change things and force people to make decisions about things is to make a decision. But you got to be careful not to try to push your beliefs and things on others either, because that's kind of why we got in a mess in the first place.
Unfortunately. So, all right. And spoke like a bunch of true prodigies. So, okay. So, boys, we reached the end of my podcast right here. We're just a little over an hour and 20 minutes. So, I guess before we close out, you want to give any shout outs to anybody? Say any other final words?
I'm just going to say shout out to all the people that have been playing with us in the scene. We got the Gulf Coast Metal Alliance down here, which is a club that just kind of, encapsulates a lot of the bands that are down here. They're always great guys to work with. They have us on with a lot of events that they're doing. A lot of the bands that, have played with us pretty frequently that we become great friends with, Nesnum, Soul Dredger, Constricted come to mind. And then there's just, shout outs to all the other groups that have recently been willing to work with us. We got upcoming shows with bands like Muscle and Skulldozer and Alone in the Morgue that are coming up. And just to everybody that's given us the opportunity to be able to put on a show and be able to display our art, thank you. And to everybody that enjoys what we do, thank you as well.
I'm guessing Alone in the Morgue, they took that name from Whitechapel because it was a song by them.
I'd have to ask him. I don't know if that's where the influence came or not.
They make a choice, but all right, let's see what happens. All right. Jeremy, you all good? Was there anything you?
No, I think he said it. All the bands we've got coming up. I mean, check them out too. There's a lot of really good bands around here, in addition to like the ones that he said, like Shores of Acheron, Herculean, another good one, kind of up and coming, and those guys are constantly working and busy. So a lot of really good stuff out there. A lot of great bands that said I'm excited about playing it with in the future, or we have already also. So get out there.
All right. And Colby, what social media are you guys on, as well as streaming platforms, so they can check you out and listen to your music?
So you can find us on Spotify, on Bandcamp, and you can find us on YouTube as well. For social media, the main one right now is just Facebook. You can just find us at Firing Squad. Feel free to message us, listen to any of the links that we have up on there. We tend to stay pretty active, so we're always happy to reply and just get to know the fan base that slowly starting to develop.
All right, sounds good. But to close out like this, everyone, my guests today were Colby and Jeremy, from the deep south of the bayou of Louisiana, or the sticks in this case, we should say. So, all right, but they're part of the band Firing Squad. So go hit up all socials, all streaming platforms. I will say, I mentioned earlier, tread carefully because it looks like there's a couple other bands who took the name Firing Squad there too. So we'll see what happens. But
sorry,
for
we'll
these
do Battle Royale.
We'll have to do Battle Royale,
yeah,
at some point. So, but nonetheless, go hit up all socials, all streaming platforms. Let's go help our brothers out there too, and support all the acts that these guys have given a shout out here too as well. So, Colby and Jeremy, wish you all the best going forward there, mates. So you all stay safe. Rock on. I just need a quick pose. Stay tuned, y'all.